Xi Jinping and the CCP have caved to protesters as two large Chinese cities ease COVID restrictions just days after protests began in the streets. It wasn't letting up. All right. There are 1.4 billion people in China. And after the way that the communist Chinese regime has treated them, most of the people are in solidarity now because they've had enough. Like everywhere else, including the United States, people put up with the COVID restrictions in the beginning because they thought they were doing the right thing. Everybody wants to do the right thing because we're all good people by nature, right? Most of us, anyway. And they thought that there was a serious threat to death on anyone who contacted COVID. Well, we all know the story on that now, right? But the Communist Chinese Party has thrown down the world's strictest COVID restrictions, getting to the point where they literally welded people into their apartments so they couldn't get out. You remember that? These people broke no laws. They were just living their lives and putting up with the COVID restrictions. And because in some cities there were white-collar workers, Xi Jinping had to lock them down forcefully. What happens is when you live under a dictatorship, the people that are well off, okay, white-collar workers, business owners, when you're well off, you start living comfortably. And when you live comfortably, it's just human nature, man. You start to speak out against the atrocities of your government. It's just the way it is. Well, the CCP put an end to that by locking those people down and letting most of them starve to death. They had no way to eat. They said, oh, the government's going to feed them. No, they didn't. There's no evidence of that. So the people started to resist, but they were shut down pretty quickly by the military. But then a fire broke out last week, and 10 people died in the building because they were trapped inside their apartments because their own government locked them inside and welded the doors shut. Let's watch some more of this. The government started realizing that, hey, there's a lot of people that are in on this now. They hadn't seen anything like that in years. I mean, Tiananmen Square was what, 30 or more years ago, right? It was a long time ago. So they hadn't seen anything like this. And I believe this was far worse because it's just far more people. It's because you can't lock people in their homes, like literally weld the doors shut so they can't get out. So on Wednesday, the Chinese cities of Guangzhou and Chongqing announced a relaxation of COVID restrictions a day after protesters in southern Guangzhou clashed with police in the latest in a series of protests against the world's strictest coronavirus restrictions. Now, just to show you how intimidated the Communist Chinese Party government is over these protests, on Thursday, dozens of districts in Shanghai and Guangzhou, both of which have seen an increase in COVID cases, were released from their forced lockdown. This comes as China faces widespread opposition to its zero COVID policy. You can't have zero COVID policy. You can't have zero anything policy when it comes to illnesses. It's impossible to get zero. I think the rest of the world is watching this. And I think the tyrants of the world, including our own Biden regime, were hoping and praying that the communist Chinese government would come down hard and heavy on these people because they want to do similar lockdowns. In fact, we've had people in the Democrat Party and their sycophants who have praised how China has handled COVID with their zero COVID policy. Who the hell could praise that? Now, I have no evidence of that. I'm only seeing things the way that no one here has condemned China for the strictest policies and for welding people shut in their homes for about a year. Our president met with Xi and said nothing about this. He never brought it up. So I think a new dawn is happening where people around the world understand that if you unite in protests, things will change. Now, unlike the animals that rioted here in the summer of 2020, it doesn't look like these protesters in Shanghai and whatnot were smashing stores, setting them on fire, toppling statues, stealing and looting, or anything like that. I mean, maybe they were, and we just didn't see it. But I saw a lot of video of the protests going on over there right now, and I didn't see any of that. Okay, they were simply out there protesting for the human right of having freedom. A year of being locked up inside your home would make anybody go mental. Am I right? So there's companies like Apple and the NBA. They should take note of this because they're doing things for this disgusting regime over there, and that has an abysmal record on human rights, worse than most industrialized nations. For example, Apple, I don't know if you know this, Apple removed AirDrop from iPhones in China because the government can't track what the people are doing, because apparently AirDrop does not go through the phone lines. All right, you could talk phone to phone using AirDrop, and the government couldn't monitor what people were saying. Dictatorial regimes are always worried about the people that they are oppressing banding together to stop them. And so Tim Cook's Apple actually helped the Communist Chinese Party regime on continuing the oppression of their people. Okay, so Apple and the NBA are making billions of dollars from the over 1 billion people in China, and that's why they're not saying a damn thing about what's going on over there. So we're going to keep up on this, and we'll do another report if things change. All right, but so far we're seeing some good things. They're lowering the restrictions. People don't mind COVID restrictions, but you don't lock them down in their homes, literally welding their doors shut for over a year. All right, so that's it. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you in the next one.